Hello, lover. You've just entered a portal of pleasure, power, and deep, unapologetic sensuality. This is Talk Tantra to Me, where we liberate your authentic self, reclaim the wisdom of the body, and let pleasure lead the way. I'm your guide, Leola, tantrika, pleasure priestess, best-selling author of Sacred Sex Ed, and devoted student of the erotic mysteries. I'm here to strip away shame and awaken your most radiant, sacred, and sensual self. Get in, babe. We're conspiring for your most pleasurable life and seducing the world into a greater good. So, take a deep breath with a vocal exhale, relax that delicious body of yours, and let's talk Tantra. Over the years, I've been approached by many pleasure-based companies to promote their products, but I've only ever said yes to one person because I genuinely love these products so much, as well as the woman behind them. Wands, spelled Waands, is a crystal pleasure toy company, and they have been a part of my Tantra journey since the beginning. And they're not just toys, they're truly activators and beautiful sacred pieces of art that foster deep self-connection, pleasure, and transformation. These 100% pure crystal wands and yoni eggs help you unlock your body's wisdom, clear energy blockages, and amplify your pleasure, whether alone or with a partner. And it's not just about the products. For me, it's about the heart and the soul behind them. And the owner, Courtney, I absolutely adore her. She's been so generous to offer you, my beloved listeners, an exclusive 15% off with the code Leola, Leola. So if you're ready to honor your sacred sexuality and awaken your sensual energy, stepping into a pleasure-filled life, head to wands.com. Again, Waands, 2 A's, and use code Leola for 15% off. And you can always find the link directly in the show notes. Trust me, you're going to thank me later. Welcome to Talk Tantra to Me. It is such an honor to be holding space for this divine knowledge to make its way into your ears and lifestyle. I am so excited for today's guest, Ciara Rubin. She is a best-selling author, singer, and mystic. And I first came across Ciara's work when I was actually launching my own book. I was bringing Sacred Sex Ed into the world. If you're not familiar with my book, you can find it on Amazon by searching Sacred Sex Ed, but that's not what today is about. Today is about Ciara Rubin and her book. And, she has 2 books actually. So I first found her because she was launching her first book, You Always Know. That's the title, right? Yeah. Yeah, You Always Know. I don't know how I stumbled across you, but I was looking at other people that were sharing their books online, getting inspired, and I just really liked the way that Ciara was showing up, and I found, what she was doing really interesting, and she was really just inspiration for me in launching my book. And then we ended up kind of forging this like Instagram friendship, going back and forth. This first book was really about bringing your intuition online, and maybe you can speak into that a little bit more in a moment here, Ciara, but it's something that I deeply believe in as an incredible superpower for women and men to be in tune with your intuition and your higher self. And so that book has I read it, it has some incredible ways to begin cultivating your intuition and tapping into your higher truth. And so I loved it. And now she is launching her next book, which is all about friendship, female friendship specifically. And it's something that I think is really important and needed in this world. And I'm so freaking excited to read the book because I've had quite a journey in how I relate to friendship. There's been so many different seasons of my life and friends that I have cultivated over the years that have served me becoming the woman that I am today. And there's always deeper lessons that come up for me around sisterhood and female friendship. This year has been a big year of reorienting to friendship. I even shared like a confession
on the podcast a few episodes ago. I had a podcast called Confessions of a Pleasure Priestess. And in that episode, I shared about how one confession is that I actually want less friends in this season of life. And if you're interested in hearing the why on that, you can go back to that episode. It's just a few episodes ago, Confessions of a Pleasure Priestess. But all that being said, I really don't know what's in this book yet. So I'm along for the journey with you guys to hear about it from Ciara. I know that I'm going to read it regardless because she's an amazing author. But yeah, Ciara, why don't you start by just telling us like what led you to write a book about female friendship?
Yes, thank you so much for that. And I thank you for all the things you said about being inspired by the first book launch. I had been told by my guides, my intuition, my higher self, however you want to phrase it, to write a book for years and years and years before I finally wrote that book. And when I finally did write it, it was like a singularity point for me, just an explosion of, wow, yes, this is what you're supposed to be doing. I actually write my books by speaking them. I do the voice typing in Google Docs. More so than the typing. I'm a talker. I'm a Gemini. So that's what works for me. And so when I finally sat down to write You Always Know and then finished it, went back and read it, I was like, oh no, there's like 4 or 5 books inside of this one book.
Yep.
There
I resonate with that.
there are many transformations inside of this one book. And while it's a great introduction to my work in a lot of ways about intuition and shadow work and all of those things, I wanted to write a book that was more specific, that was a very straightforward transformation, a topic that people could relate to in their lives. And I honestly, it was maybe a month or two after I launched You Always Know, when I told my best friend, I think I want to write another book. And she and I launched our books together and had a joint book launch party, our first books together. And she was like, "Are you nuts?" And I was like, "Yeah, probably, but I still want to, and I feel it." And so what I was going through and what was true for me in that moment was I was going through a huge transformation in the area of friendship in my life. I met a woman who we're going to call her Stella in the book, and she changed my life. I don't know if you ever heard of the Pattern app?
Yes.
Okay, so when we became friends, Stella and I, we both got on the Pattern app, and the Pattern app was basically saying, you guys are here to catalyze one another's purpose and help each other become who you are meant to be in this life. And we were like, heck yeah, besties forever, right? For the first several months. Um, and so when that situation fell apart, and we can go deeper into what happened and how that is one of the main story arcs in her circle in the book, I realized that that was the topic of the next book, and that I was going to use the process of writing this book to heal myself, and to help people heal and provide a prescriptive process as well.
Okay, beautiful. I'm curious why you called it In Her Circle. Like, what is the story behind the title? I really like it.
Thank you. Well, I was struggling with that for a while. So I actually joined Gabrielle Bernstein's bestseller masterclass to help me with the outlining of this book. And it was a very helpful course. Highly recommend for your next book. But she helped me come up with a working title, which was The Friendship Cure. And I used that title for a long time. And it just something about it didn't really sit right with me. It didn't feel totally mine. It didn't feel really resonate, but it described what the book was about. And so this song that I used to sing all the time, I was a Girl Scout for like 8 years, and we always used to sing that one song, make new friends, but keep the old. One is silver, but the other's gold, right? A,
Yep.
a circle's round and has no end, and that's how long I'm going to be your friend. So that song, Spirit gives me songs all the time. I love it. It's like a little radio in my head. So I'm hearing that song over and over and over again. I was at a friend's house in North Carolina masterminding at the beach, And this was something that she helped me come up with. And it was so perfect because it's a little play on inner circle,
Yeah.
right? Being in someone's inner circle. The book is actually all about inner work. Spoiler alert. And so in her circle just felt really, really cool, like a little play on words.
Yeah, I really love it. I've had a big shift around like the inner circle of friendships since moving to Austin. I didn't really feel like I had a super solid inner circle until I moved here. And in Austin, there's just such a abundance of amazing women that are in their power and purpose and are inspiring and incredible in their own right. And so I remember when I first moved here, like I remember one day going on 4 friend dates, like really being in this energy. I was ovulating, so it worked. But I remember really being in this energy of like saying yes to every invitation because I really felt like this is my season where I find my ride or die gals.
Yeah.
And I did find some incredible women that like if from that season that are still like my besties to this day. And there was a lot of discernment that had to happen over the years. Like to go from, just a few years ago saying yes to every invitation and now being in this season where I'm way more discerning about what I'm looking for has been really interesting. And another piece, like specifically around inner circle, is like there were different variations of my inner circle unfolding, but one big piece this year was recognizing like how the people that I chose to kind of be in my quote unquote inner circle over the last year or so are like traumas all matched up perfectly. Like we all kind of like made this like really grandiose commitment to like we are family, like ride or die, this is it. And we made it from a place of like not like a couple of them like I had some conflict with, but in a way that like we had the conflict, we came out better on the other side, and that actually allowed us to really be in the inner circle from a really integral place,
Mm.
right? But then there were some that like we didn't have the conflict, but then we made these grand commitments of family, and it came from this place of like all of us having pretty challenging upbringings.
Yeah.
So us wanting to create this family for the first time in our lives, and then realizing though, oh, but this isn't fully grounded because we haven't been through the initiations that we probably need to go through together to actually be able to make that type of commitment. And so that's been a big piece for me over the past, I would say maybe like last year, is like welcoming that conflict, getting curious about it, allowing things to be crunchy and uncomfortable in my friend group, and then getting curious about what's available on the other side there from a really discerning and much more mature place. Like rather than just being like, oh, I'm so excited to like be your friend because you're a cool girl. Like it's like, but wait, if I'm the 5 people that I spend the most time with, what am I actually choosing? And like it's really easy to choose someone when you see their persona that they display first into the world, but when you go through conflict you see like a whole other thing. So I know that like that's a big part of your book as well from what you shared with me before we started recording, and I just kind of went on a tangent, but how does this relate to you in the book?
It does. And it's interesting. I mean, it's a full Taylor Swift moment, right? It's like gonna be forever or it's gonna go down in flames, right?
Yeah.
You could tell me it
There's
was
that singer.
over if the high was worth the pain, right?
Yeah.
So we do that. We do that a lot as women, whether it's coming from our family trauma or whether it's just coming from we are so loving and we want to love and we are love and we just like what is that joke about lesbians that what they bring on the second date? A moving van, right? We want to be together and we want that family. And I understand what you're saying and can resonate with what you're saying about the family of origin, and is some of there are a few, but some of the core wounds that I highlight in the book are those family of origin wounds, the mother wound, the sister wound, if you have a sister, and your relationship with those women will often determine how you operate, what you seek in friendship. So it does connect in a deep way.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I think that another piece that's been a really big reflection for me over the past year is with this inner circle idea, like there can be like finding right relationship and friendship, right? Like for me, I kind of was in this space of like, we're either besties or like you're not really in my circle. It's not a friendship, but or it's not like a friendship that I'm really, I don't know, investing in, I suppose. And how things have shifted is like noticing like I can have these inner circle friends, and then I can also have friends that I love for exactly who they are, but they might not be as reliable in certain ways, or they might not be the people that I feel the safest to dive deep into one particular, or like the deeper parts of my, lived experience, right?
Yeah.
Is it something that you speak to in the book, or like how do you approach the understanding of like when someone like you're really excited about a friendship, but then it doesn't really live up to your expectations, and like what do you do with that?
Yeah, I hear what you're saying about the sort of all or nothing mentality and shifting that, right? And not necessarily making everyone need to be everything for you.
Hmm.
Something that I start with in the book is setting your intentions, right? You teach this all the time about how powerful intention setting is. And so we make our ideal best friend list, right? And so we make that list, and then you check yourself and say, wait a minute, am I actually a match? Am I a vibrational match to all of these traits that I wrote down? And it doesn't have to be like 100%, but a good 75, 80%. And not every friend that you meet is going to match with that list exactly. It is very rare. It is very rare. I have two women in my life that I have known and been close with for a decade or more. And to your point, I wouldn't say every time, but a lot of times when I venture outside, not venture outside like I'm cheating on them, but try to make new friends. I find very much similar to what you're talking about, where these other women, they check some of the boxes and they're amazing and I love them for so many different reasons, and they're not in that super inner circle, lifelong, I can tell them anything, I can just be and not be thinking about how I'm being perceived, type of relationship. And I think that that's okay. I think that there's nothing wrong with that. And I, like you, also used to struggle with even using the word friend for somebody who didn't check all of those boxes.
Hmm.
And so I have learned that you can call someone a friend, but they don't have to be your best friend. And they don't have to be with you at every life occasion, every life event. It can just be somebody that you see every once in a while, or you invite to the girls' group sleepover or whatever, but we're not, voice noting each other and going deep on a regular basis.
Yeah, I had a friend who's actually not really in my life anymore, funny enough, now that I'm thinking about it. But he had a saying that was everyone's in your life for a reason, a season, or a lifetime. And I think that especially if you come in with, maybe an avoidant or an anxious like relational pattern, like avoidant and anxious, secure, like the attachment theory, right? Like people talk about the attachment theory, being avoidant, being anxious, being secure, usually when they're talking about like a romantic relationship, but it's so applicable in friendship. And you might have a parallel attachment style in your friendships, or you might have something completely different as well, depending on what your friendships were like growing up. But I forgot where I was going with this, but I really did like as well the exercise that you gave around writing down like what is my ideal friendship, and am I a match for that? Do I reflect these qualities, and how can I show up as these qualities to then attract what I deeply desire? And I want to share here, because I forgot to share at the beginning, that Ciara is going to be coming in and actually guest teaching and taking us through some deeper exercises around sisterhood wounding and creating deeply fulfilling, intimate friendships in the Pleasure Priestess Initiation, which is my year-long initiation for women on the Tantrika path. And that's a theme that comes up so much, I notice, for women that have this essence of like Tantrika or this essence of Pleasure Priestess. And very often, women that have that quality tend to shut it down or not share their unique gifts because they've been judged by women in the past or haven't felt safe to explore those parts of themselves around other women. And it can be so, so healing to put yourself in communities, in containers with women that are like-minded so that you can have a corrective experience around sisterhood. I mean, that's just such a big theme that women come up with in that space. So I just wanted to plant that here. If you're looking for women that are in like a like-minded space, that's a place to explore and have that corrective experience. And I know it's true for like intuition as well. Like I remember talking about past lives at work. I used to work at Outback Steakhouse in high school, and I remember talking about past lives when I was like 16 or 17. And then I found out that all of the people in the back were like shit talking me and like saying I was crazy because I was talking about past lives.
She's
I
a
grew
witch.
yeah, yeah. Like I grew up in the Midwest, so like those things, like I guess are taboo. And that was like deeply, I mean, it like she was kind of, a bitch, just like for lack of better words, she was. And so it didn't like deeply impact how I interact in sisterhood. It's not like we were close and then she backstabbed me, but it was something that made me think, ooh, maybe I need to be more careful about being my authentic self. Like, what do you have to say for women that do tend to like hide certain parts of who they are out of fear of being judged by other women or potential friendship soulmates?
So the unfortunate part about that is that you will attract friends that like the version of you that hides those things. You
Mm-hmm.
will attract friends that I went through this. I talk about it in the book where right after my husband and I got married, my entire bridal party broke up with me, essentially. When I came out of the spiritual closet and started talking about chakras and intuition and past lives and dreams and all of these things. And, it was very painful. And I could all day say, oh, well, they were, superficial, whatever. And the truth is they didn't sign up for that version of Ciara. They didn't sign up for the empowered, knowledgeable woman who knew who she was, who knew what her purpose was, or at least was getting some breadcrumbs. They signed up for someone who was more superficial, who did things differently and had different interests and wanted to talk, wanted to gossip and, do all of these other things. And so just be careful that if you are not being who you are, you're going to attract friends who like not who you aren't. They're going to like that version of you that's smaller. And then when you step out of that, it's just going to be more painful. You'll go through more friendship breakups until you're more and more willing to just be all of who you are, be in your power, say the things that you think. And then the people who really love you will see you and find you, and then you'll be friends with them.
Amen. I love the radical responsibility that you bring to this conversation because I think it could be so easy to make those friends wrong, demonize, whatever, and maybe there is a shade of, you know, shadow in the way that they're moving, but that's their side of the street and you're on your side of the street and you're going to do what you can to clean it up to have a life that you deeply desire to live. And being your authentic self, in my opinion, is one of the best things that you can do for yourself. It's an act of self-love, right? But it's also a gift to the world. It's one of the best things that you can do for the world because it's inspiring other people to show up as their authentic self. And you can't make this world a better place if you're not being the version of yourself that your soul chose to come to this world as, right? So I love that. It's like you can't go wrong with taking that ownership and being your authentic self.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And you were so psychic when you're bringing up the attachment styles, because I definitely discussed that in the book.
Great.
The anxious and the avoidant attachment styles. And I just wanted to bring up this point because you said something poignant that I wanted to expand on, that it might be a little bit different because you're right. It is mostly discussed in the context of romantic relationships. And it definitely applies to friendship, though I find personally, if you are a straight woman, typically, from what I've seen in the research that I've done in my own personal life, your relationships with men will reflect the relationship that you had with your father, and the relationships you have in friendship will reflect the relationship you had with your mother. So
Wow. That just gave me full chills. So in the spring, I was doing this like sex magic ritual about friendship. I was like, I feel like there's a transition happening with my friendship, with my relationships with women. And so one thing that I'll do is this like sex magic ritual where I go into the things that are bringing me pain or the things that are bringing me confusion or dis-ease or lack of clarity and just like sit with it while I'm in this like heightened state of pleasure. And while I was in it, I like looked at like my like two or three closest friends and I was like, oh, she's my mom. She's my stepmom. She's
yeah.
my sister. Like playing out. Like the ironic thing is that we went into this friend group being like, we're not gonna like we didn't have strong family structure growing up. So let's like create that for each other. And like me not realizing that I unconsciously put these people into these roles or positions for better or for worse, right? Like the one girl that was my sister, I always had this relationship with my sister where I really wanted her to like me and I never felt the deep love and acceptance, and I was feeling that with that girl, and
Yeah.
similarly the same dynamics were playing out in the other. So that's a really good reflection point for people listening to think about who are your closest friends and how do they compare to your early feminine relationships with your caregivers and family members.
And that doesn't mean that the friendship is going to end. It doesn't mean that you can't overcome. I think what you're saying, the awareness piece is really the key there,
Yeah.
because when you can be aware of it, then you can change how you're showing up, maybe some of your expectations for the other person, and maybe you're expecting a little bit more than they can give or more than is healthy. Maybe you're having some wanting some more codependent type dynamics that is not healthy. So I think just the awareness piece and changing how you relate to them. And if they're meant to be in your life, like you said, reason, season for a lifetime, then they'll still be there when you have healed.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to share all of these women. I'm thinking of three women specifically, are all still my friends, are all still in my life, but I got to take responsibility for the dynamic I was projecting onto them. I got to do ritual around cutting the cords and allow myself to re-explore the relationship from this really clean slate and renegotiate the boundaries and the desires that I had in that friendship, mostly with myself, although with a couple of them, I actually brought them like, hey, this is what I noticed and what I'm taking responsibility for and how I intend to show up in this relationship moving forward. And again, it's been something that has brought us closer and is continuing to evolve as well. And there also wouldn't be any shame if I did decide, actually, this is way too toxic and I'm gonna cut it out. But thankfully, that wasn't the case. It was really just a renegotiation and taking radical responsibility on my end. And I want to move into a little bit deeper on that radical responsibility, because I think that there's like lots of identities that we take on in friendship. Like, I'm this type of friend, you're that type of friend, I'm the mother of the group, I'm an empath, she's a narcissist, like whatever. And I'm curious if we could speak into a little bit more of, as you had said, like our vibe attracts our tribe, like what we the people that are closest to us in some way are reflecting who we are, and maybe there's a chance for shadow work or healing in that.
Mm. Radical personal responsibility is such a huge tenet of what I'm here to do and what I'm here to teach in this world and what I'm here to learn. Before taking that on as a belief, as a perspective, I was very much, it's their fault. It's her fault. She did this to me. My mom did this to me. And that's why I insert traumatic, dysfunctional behavior here. Right. And so taking that radical personal responsibility, yes, they may be toxic. Yes, you may need to draw some gradual boundaries or leave the relationship completely. And you manifested that relationship into your life. You were part of co-creating that. And your higher self was like, heck yeah, bring this on in, because it's going to be the fastest way for you to learn is for you to go ahead and get hurt and have this painful experience potentially based on what you need to take responsibility for, the dynamics that you need to take responsibility for. And so just like with the bridal party and saying they didn't sign up for that version of me, the main story arc in her circle is about that woman I mentioned named Stella, where she and I came together, and I was so excited to meet her. There's a lot of beautiful things happening in the spiritual community in Georgia over here, but it's still very small and very new. And so having a woman like that who was very conscious and a seeker and so much depth and intelligent come into my space was like, whoa, so exciting. And so I put so much energy and effort into that relationship. She was kind of into it, right? There's a question mark in the voice, right? But she and I immediately jumped into a deep friendship, a business partnership. We started hosting monthly events together. We started our like monthly gatherings. We started planning a big seasonal event together, and everything eventually fell apart. The group that we created together fell apart. The event that we put on together that should have felt like just a pinnacle of excitement and purpose, I felt sick to my stomach because I had done almost all of the work. And I realized, well, I could say, well, she showed up an hour and a half late and she was this and she didn't put the work into it and she didn't really commit. I was the one that created that friendship all on my own. I was the one that put myself 110, 120% into the relationship and was projecting what I thought it could be or what I thought I needed in order to be powerful in my own space in the things that I was doing. And even though it's maybe not popular or maybe definitely not comfortable to take that level of radical personal responsibility, it is liberating. It is empowering, because when you recognize that you are co-creating all of the things that happen in your life, whether good or bad, that means that you can heal those things. You can overcome those things, and you can do things differently next time when you have that next opportunity come around, that it will come around to test you to see if you've really transformed. Yeah, I could go on and on about radical personal responsibility. But now I feel like maybe we should get a little bit into one of the more controversial things that I discuss in
Let's do it.
in the book. So
I see you, sister, already so spiritual, deeply devoted to your path, but something in you knows there's more. You've meditated, manifested, maybe even danced under the full moon, but have you fully felt the power of your unapologetic pleasure and sensuality? Have you allowed your body to become your greatest teacher? Have you stepped into leadership in love? The Pleasure Priestess Initiation is your next step. A full year of deep sisterhood where we do life and love together. Online, in ritual, month after month, and in the flesh for a juicy in-person immersion. We'll explore powerful Tantra practices that you can take home and adapt, whether for your beloved, your sisters, or even for your own community. Plus, we'll have amazing guest sexperts, medicine women, and other powerful priestesses already walking the path, coming to share their expertise with you, as well as group masterminds, an electric WhatsApp chat, and high-level support as you step into your fullest expression. The initiation is open for enrollment now to start at the end of October. But as soon as you join, you get access to the vault of over 70 hours of previous Tantra trainings, resources, and the vault of our past guest teachers. This is more than a program. It's an initiation into your power, into your pleasure, into the woman you know you came here to be. Are you ready to awaken the pleasure priestess within? Click the link in the show notes to claim your seat in the temple, or visit us at www.talktantratome.com/pleasure.
speaking of radical personal responsibility, I think it was maybe was probably 6 or 7 years ago in my healing journey when I started to dive into a lot of the research and discussion around narcissists. I knew that I had grown up with a lot of family members that had either narcissistic traits or were full-blown undiagnosed narcissists, maybe even borderline personality disorder, undiagnosed. And I felt very much was in that space of, man, yeah, because I grew up with narcissistic family members, da 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 da. And because of this, this. And when I started to really integrate that concept of radical personal responsibility was when I had that light bulb moment, like, oh shit,
Mm-hmm.
I have narcissistic traits.
Yep.
And that is not cute to say. It's not cute to admit.
I think that, like, honestly, if you're a coach in the space right now that is fully showing up, you have narcissistic traits. Like, I think it's like it just is what it is. And I listened to a different podcast episode. I think it was Sahara Rose and some random guy, but they were saying, like, it's thanks to narcissists that our society has evolved to the place that it has, you know? And so again, like, I think that there's shadow and light in everything, but I'll let you continue on with your spicy narcissistic rant.
Well, I mean, I think there's so much discussion around the empath and the narcissist, and that these are two completely different archetypes. And I beg to differ because I am an empath. I am very sensitive, always have been to energy, to getting a sense of other people and their character, seeing through other people, sensitive to prescription medications, right? I'm an empath
Yeah.
under all of the definitions. And I have narcissistic traits. So I don't believe in this whole debate of, oh, why is the empath attracting the narcissist? Because the empath, you need to watch out for the narcissist. It's like, well, you're going to keep attracting those narcissists until you recognize the narcissistic traits within yourself. Because at the core, when you go ahead, and there's a lot of cited sources in this book because I'm not a psychologist, but when you go and you look at the definition of narcissism, it speaks to a lack of self-esteem at its core and a secret or not so secret self-loathing. And we all have a little touch or a lot of that, right?
Yeah.
So for me, narcissism is more of a spectrum, right? There might be down here at the lowest level, there might be covert narcissists. There might be narcissistic traits all the way up to a full-blown diagnosable narcissist. And we all, in my opinion, fall somewhere in that spectrum. And so, a lot of the women that I spoke to when I was doing research for this book spoke to that. I struggle attracting narcissists. I struggle attracting covert narcissists. And, I have really good friends in my life, but these covert narcissists, it's like takes years for me to figure out that this is what their issue is. And I don't understand. Well, like what you were saying, and we've heard it so many times, your vibe attracts your tribe. You wouldn't be attracting those narcissists if there weren't some traits within you that were a vibrational match to that narcissist, right? Now, the narcissist might be amplifying those traits where they might be at a 9 or a 10, you might be at a 4 or a 5 with those traits. But until we are willing to look at those things, it's hard because narcissist has become a dirty word.
Mm-hmm.
It has become a very like, ooh, she said that. Ooh, we don't want to be called that, right? But
Mm-hmm.
until we're willing to look at that within ourselves, we're going to keep attracting those types of people. We're going to keep experiencing those love bombing, gonna be forever type of relationships. So it's really, really important to become aware of that. Now, that doesn't mean that if you have narcissistic traits that you are a narcissist,
Yeah.
right? There's a difference there. Um, you know, just because, taking a look at those traits honestly it's an eye-opening process, and it's deep shadow work. It's deep, deep shadow work, but it's so, so important because, spoiler alert again, you think that as you're doing this work, as you're looking at your narcissistic traits and your attachment styles and healing the mother wound and healing how you feel about other women, that you're doing that so that you can have better friendships. But ultimately, the reason why we're doing that, if you consider yourself a light worker or a cycle breaker or a, pleasure priestess or a witchy woman, the divine feminine is rising and it has been rising for a long time and it is wounded, right? It is rising and we are the embodiment of that rising. And so, as we have the courage to take that radical personal responsibility to look at all of the shadows, including our narcissistic traits, she can rise more whole, she can rise more healed, and we can see a accelerated process towards what we feel as a collective, as spiritual, practitioners that we're working towards.
Oh, so good. Such chills. There's a quote that this makes me think of. I'm going to see if I can say it correctly, but the essence is um, the treasure that you seek is in the cave you fear to enter. And so if
Mm.
there's part of you that's like resisting this conversation about narcissism and it's like, oh, I don't even want to look up the traits, I would bet that there's some beautiful integration, golden shadow opportunity for you in the exploration of that, both for your relationship with yourself, but also potentially for your relationships with other women, other individuals, etc.
Mm.
So,
Absolutely. And I know it's going to we'll see how it lands. I was telling one woman at a lunch date about this part of the book and she's like, "Well, good luck with that."
I love it. I'm here for it. I mean, this is like we talk taboo on the podcast all the time. I also remembered the quote's actually the cave you fear to enter holds the treasure you seek. That's the same. I just switched it up, like the framing on it. But anyways, that's the actual quote if anyone's interested.
Good.
Yeah,
I got chills. I got chills the first time you said it. It was really good.
yeah, it's a powerful awareness, and it doesn't just go for this narcissistic quality. It goes for, and any quality, anything, any place where you are avoiding self-exploration out of a place of fear, there is likely some untapped power there. And for a lot of women, I'm working with them on reclaiming the sensuality or the sexuality or the emotional range or the intuitive capability that they fear to fully claim. Um, but I think that looking at your, like, to me, every relationship in my life is there to help me grow, every single one of them. And so whether it's working really well or something feels off, there's something for me to harvest from that and to use as a mirror for my own self-development. And so looking around, like, who are the people in my inner circle? Why are they here? What are they telling me about myself? And what do I want to do with that information? I also had a friend recently that said something along the lines of, it's game 7. Who's on your team and who are you passing the ball to? Would you pass the ball to yourself? Like, who are you avoiding passing the ball to? And getting really curious about that as a metaphor. I'm not a sports person, so I might even be messing up the metaphor. But the idea is like, it's like, think of this moment in your life as the pinnacle of opportunity and like a place where you could really win big. But you can only win big if you've got the right people on your team and they're playing like the different roles that are going to support you in that and taking a really honest evaluation of that and being curious about, like, do I need to bench someone that's on my team, and like, or do I need to bench myself? Maybe even like I went through a season of that where I was like, you know what, maybe it's time for me to take a step back and be in this period of self-reflection. Let me go into the void.
Yeah.
So that's just another, frame that listeners might get some use out of.
Yeah, sometimes you need to put yourself in timeout. That's
Yep.
okay.
Amen. Um, I have another topic that's come up that I really want to chat about. We didn't talk about talking about this before, so it might be a curveball, but I feel like it's also related to what we've been sharing. And that's this energy of pedestaling, like pedestaling women, pedestaling friends, like, you know, I have noticed in myself and also in working with lots of women this tendency of when a woman comes in and she is really inspiring or interesting, like especially like in the earlier days of building my business, I started to open myself up to, okay, I want to be friends with other entrepreneurial women, other women that are in their passion and their purpose, and stepping into rooms where there were women that were doing this work for years. And I was just kind of starting out and finding my footing and really starting to put these women on pedestals and noticing the dynamic that that created, which, spoiler alert, was not healthy, nor was it supportive to me, nor was it supportive to them. And now I'm on the other side, actually, where I've had, people say, I noticed myself pedestaling you, and like feeling the stickiness of that dynamic. So I'm curious if that's something that you address in the book or something that you've experienced that you want to speak into at all.
It's not something that I specifically address in the book, but I do really resonate with what you're saying, especially when I was first starting out. It's rarer now. It's more rare nowadays that I would pedestal somebody, but although sometimes I'm just like, wow, this is, amazing. Like, wow, but like I I just feel that when you do that, you're setting yourself up for disappointment in one way, right? Because what is that saying? Like, don't get to know your heroes, and we see so many of these bright, bright lights and find that they have deep, deep, dark shadows. And sometimes we're surprised by that. And we're just human. We're just human beings. And it's really hard to do that. Especially this actually hits very personally for me, this topic, because I don't know if you're familiar with human design at all, but apparently, according to my human design, I am a manifesting generator 5/1. A lot of people project things onto me, and that's what my human design says, and I have experienced that as well. Like, people expect me to be in a certain way or expect certain things from me, and then when I let my vulnerability show, which is very important to me, although I'm learning not to just be vulnerable for vulnerability's sake. um, it's almost like I change for them, and suddenly whoa, you did that and you said that. Well, or specifically with the topic of friendship, because as I was writing the book, I experienced more turmoil and tumultuous situations in friendship. And I was like, God, like, who am I to be writing this book about female friendship when I'm still like the lessons are still raw and the wires are still exposed? And, so I think that, putting people on a pedestal, it not only sets you up for disappointment, but it's not really fair. It's not fair to the other person. It's not fair to the person that you're putting on a pedestal, because, um, they're human. They're only human, and they can't live up to, whatever your expectations of them are. If you're inspired by them, amazing. If you feel empowered when you encounter their work, amazing. And ultimately, the only person who can empower you is yourself. I know it's a buzzword. I know everybody says it. When someone else says, I'm here to empower women, I empower you, I get a little, there's a little, inside of me, because no, you can't. No, you cannot empower someone else. And if you make someone else believe, or if you believe that someone else is empowering you, then you will always be dependent on that person or someone like them for your empowerment. And so that's why concepts like radical personal responsibility, and self-empowerment are so important, because the empowerment is only real if you are empowering yourself and you are gleaning your empowerment from the successes and the overcoming of your own challenges.
So, 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 so true. I love what you said too about, you didn't say these exact words, but this essence of like everybody's human. And like, you put it like they're to pretend that they don't have their own messes behind closed doors, they don't have their own things working that they're working through, is really a disservice. Like, obviously, we live in this world where we want to project our best selves, and there's nothing wrong with that, but it really can, it can be like, I think that there were a lot of people, even just speaking to something that's, come up a lot. This doesn't have to do with female friendship, but like the whole Aubrey Marcus thing that's happening, like so many people vilified this man as a hero, and then he has this whole other life that he's actually sharing in one way very courageously, but he also has changed his perspective on things. And I don't want to get into whether I think that he's right, wrong, good or bad, but I think that what is a really interesting case study is like how upset people are because, in my opinion, there was so much pedestaling happening. And while this man might have some really unique, powerful codes that are going to be supportive to most people, there are also parts of his life that he might still be figuring out, and that's okay. And everyone's like that. I have a friend that teaches about relationships, and I also have heard about her relationship struggles. Does that mean that her teachings like aren't valid? No, I've listened to them and I'm like, actually, there's a lot for me there, even though I don't necessarily aspire to have the relationship that she's in. And I think that there's just a lot of value in seeing that we all have different, unique frequencies and gifts that we are able to give to the world, but we also have things that we can receive from one another. Like one of my favorite moving meditations of sorts is anytime I meet someone to get into the frequency of what am I offering to this person, and also what am I learning from this person? Like what would happen if I met the world in a way where I had something to learn from everyone, but I also believe in myself and have such a confidence in my own unique, authentic self and soul purpose that I believe that there's something for me here to offer as well. So that's my
I love
thoughts.
that. Yeah, well, my mother-in-law is my boundary teacher.
I love it. I love it. That's so
Yes.
great.
Yes. Well, some of the most, like you said, some of the most difficult relationships, you can view them as your spiritual teachers. And on some level, they really, really are. But to speak again to what you're talking about the pedestaling, I mean, back in the day, there were very few spiritual leaders, spiritual teachers who, became well known, right? The Edgar
Yeah.
Cayce's and, these types of figures. And now we're stepping into a beautiful space where the ripple effects are huge. The snowball is rolling, and the awakening is accelerating. And so you're going to have more and more of these figures, more and more people like you and like me, and like, so many amazing other women that we've mentioned here, Sahara Rose, that are stepping forward. And so there are more voices, and I mean, you find out all the time, like, I don't even know their name, but there was like a very famous, like, Kundalini yoga teacher who was, raping people,
Yeah.
like there, and not that everybody's going to have that depth of shadow, but just to say that as more and more light leaders step forward, they're shining their light, and they're also they have shadows, and they have things that they haven't quite worked through yet, and they are taking imperfect action. And while we do want to be discerning of toxicity and have healthy boundaries, we also can be compassionate and
Yeah.
grateful that those people, even like an Aubrey Marcus, are stepping forward and sharing their voice despite not being enlightened, healed, which, if you're in a body, it's not a thing.
Yeah, we almost need those people that don't resonate or that we feel are out of integrity or aren't doing things the way that we would do them so that we know how to do a thing even better. Like, I feel like my facilitation has been sharpened because of my worst facilitators that I received from
Oh, yeah.
the programs that I've created. Like, I've invested thousands of dollars in containers that I was like, I'm getting nothing from this. And what do I want to create that can actually bring results that resonate with my type of learning style, so I think that there's something to learn from that as well.
Definitely. I mean, we are playing with power for the very first time, not for the very first time. It's been progressively happening, right? Since the repression, right, of our sexual power, our sexual energy. We're taking that power back in so many different ways. And it's a learning process. And it's so, so important to have that radical personal responsibility to take a look at the depths of our shadows so that it is safe to be powerful.
I love that. I love that. So that it's safe to be powerful. We don't create safety around our power by avoiding these parts of ourselves that we're afraid of. We create safety by mastering all of ourselves by self-mastery. So I absolutely adore that. We're kind of coming to the end here. I have just like a curious question. As someone that is a leader in your own right, in your own space, you work with women. I've had women ask this. It's also been something that I've navigated in being a leader in this space. What are your thoughts on like befriending your clients? Like having a, like, how do you navigate clients wanting to deepen with you in that friendship way? Yeah, I'm just curious what your thoughts are on that. Like, I know for myself, I've befriended some of my coaches, and there can still be this like, ooh, power dynamic. And then I also have clients that are now good friends as well. And so I'm just curious, yeah, like, what do you think about that? Like, how to navigate that with grace?
So I have lots of thoughts, but I'll try to keep it brief. I'm actually listening to this book right now, an audiobook while I go on my morning walks. It's called Becoming Bulletproof. It's by, I'm going to butcher her last name, but her first name is Evie. She was a former Secret Service agent, and she teaches about influence, and she teaches about many other amazing things in that book. And she was just talking about that this morning, and it speaks a little bit to some of my feelings and personal experience around that. About, when you are a leader, you can be friendly to a point, but not always friends, right? If you're in that active leadership role. So for me personally, it's always made more sense, like if a friendship does form with a mentor or someone that I have coached or worked with in the past, that it is when we are no longer in a container,
Yeah.
first of all, working together. And that friendship part of it should develop slowly over years, and not to dive into it too quickly, because of, like what you said, the power dynamics can be weird. Or maybe I've tried this in the past, write about it in the book, of trying to have friends and then trying to put it on an event together. So then it becomes like there's a business aspect to it, and how people behave around business and money is a completely different shadow or light than how they behave in friendship. And so there could be hurt feelings or unmet expectations or crunchiness or conflict that arises when you try to mix that business and the friendship too soon. And some people you shouldn't mix that with. But I would say in general, as a rule, like it's okay to become friends with mentors or clients outside the container, developing over years.
Yeah, I think that's generally really good advice. I know we're at the hour. Do you have like 10 more minutes?
Yeah.
Okay, great. I have one more question. Like I keep having more questions come up, and I'm like, oh, I want her to take on this. I want her to take on this. Um, So what brought me to this question is you saying like developing the friendship over years, right? And I think that there's this reality that when we find someone that like really lands with us, like we want to just like, oh my God, like so in love, like so let's fucking go. You know what I mean? And I've experienced that, and I've experienced that and been let down, and I've experienced that and been let up, and like really deepened. But for me, it was always like at some point there needed to be a conflict that then decided, are we going to go deeper with this, or are you going to fall into maybe a different category of friendship, right? And so, or are we just not going to be friends at all? And I'm curious, like, about that piece. Like, it takes, my experience is that as an adult, it's very different than when we were in school, right? Where we're spending days and days and days with people. There's lots of quality time that just organically happens. Whereas now as adults, we have families, we have jobs, we have all these responsibilities. And to like facilitate that deep friendship, it takes a while. And like, what are your thoughts on like the timing piece?
Mm. So I've learned a lot about this through heartbreak and through trial and error. And it's interesting because people will always show you the best of who they are, and they will try at first, and they will try to maintain that. We all do this as long as possible. And depending on the amount of time that you spend with the other person will depend on how long it takes before the cracks start to form and you start to see the shadow, you start to see like, oh yeah, these amazing things about them are true. And
Yeah.
there's also these other layers and there's also these other shadows that are going on. And so it depends on how much time you're spending with them before you start to see it. Also, it depends on your level of boundaries. Now, if there is a codependent dynamic that develops where you're texting each other every day or every other day, seeing each other at least once a week or whatever, like it can be harder to see the shadows in that because you need some separation. You need some distance and some space sometimes in order to see those things. Um, because sometimes, I mean, I've been in friendships where I was friends with the woman for a whole year before I really started to let her in. And
Yeah.
it was like, oh, like she starts saying things like, why do you want to work on yourself all the time? Don't you just want to have fun? Or
I get it.
what?
I get it. I feel called out.
Well, I mean, yes, there is such a thing as, diving too deep into the shadow, and that being said, just for me personally, as somebody who's literally writing self-help books, if I'm going to be self-helping you, I better be self-helping myself like all the time, right? So, yeah, just sometimes it takes a year, sometimes it takes 2 years for you to really start to see who they are and for them to really start to see who you are. And then just like in a romantic relationship, right, when the honeymoon period is over, at that point then you find out, okay, these rubs that we each have that are rubbing against each other, can we work through this? Can we deepen this? Or do we need to draw gradual boundaries and have a different kind of a friendship or go our separate ways? So in my experience, at least 2 years before
Okay.
you would start considering them a part of your inner circle. And even as I'm saying that, I'm like, oh, that's way too long.
I hear you, but I think you're right. Like I think that like I mean, obviously everyone's different, but I think that that's a realistic timeline for the average person for sure. Okay, I have one more question and I swear I'm gonna be done. Just
Oh, I
more.
love this.
Okay, what are your friendship deal breakers? Like what would be the things of like this is friendship breakup worthy?
Okay, so in order to answer that question, I'm going to go to, so I made this thing, it's called the friendship audit.
Oh my
And
God, love.
yeah, no, it's good. It's a green, yellow, and red light framework. So green lights, friendship is a go. Yellow lights, if she does these behaviors, slow things down a little bit. And then we have red lights, hell no, bye Felicia. So we've got 5 of those. So I'm just gonna read through them really quick from this friendship audit. So the red lights of like we need to have a conversation and either it's a yes or a no. Number one, she indicates that she's not into working on herself because, like I said, I know all of the women and, some of the men as well, who are listening to this are wanting to do big things in the world. They have purpose. They have that sense of spiritual direction. So, you who are listening are into working on yourselves. You wouldn't be listening to this podcast if you weren't. Okay, so if the other friend indicates that they're not into working on themselves, believe her and don't stick around and hope she's going to change it. Start setting gradual boundaries. Okay, gradual boundaries is the name of the game. We're not ghosting anymore. We're not ghosting unless they're truly toxic or abusive. Okay, getting ghosted sucks. I've done it. You've done it. We've all done it. It's very dysfunctional. Okay. But number 2, she sends you like like passive aggressive DMs or messages. Like you feel that venom energy in her message. Action step there is first just ask her straight up. Be like, "Hey, what did you mean by this?" And see what conversation ensues. But there could be, like we talked about before, there could be some pedestaling going on. There could be some underlying jealousy energy. There could be some stuff. So address that directly. And based on how she responds when you address things directly, you'll know. Okay. Number 3, if she's jealous, if you're friends with other successful women. Okay. That is a red light behavior. Ain't nobody got time for a possessive friend. She's feeling that way, acting that way because she's insecure. So we can have some compassion and ask her directly how she feels about that other person that you've felt that she's jealous of. And just decide from the dialogue if you should draw gradual boundaries. Your friend, a true friend, is going to want you to win, and you're going to win when you're in the room with winners. So she should love that for you and want that for you. Number 4, she never supports you or celebrates your wins. Now, there's a lot of, I call them Captain Save-A-Hose. There's a lot of Captain Save-A-Hose out there that want to support you when you're down. They'll be there for you when you're complaining and you're upset and you're miserable. And then when you have a really big success, crickets. Crickets. Okay? Those are the ones that get their yayas out of saving you, helping other friends work through their problems and drama so they don't have to focus on their own. Okay. So she should support you and she should also celebrate your wins. And number 5, if she's not open to honest conversations. Now, I get that most people avoid conflict. She might just be afraid of it. Wade into those waters and see what happens. But if she's not available for open and honest communication, imperfect open and honest communication, bye, girl. Bye, Felicia. See you later.
Okay, I love this. I also just love the way you talk. Like she gets her yayas from, like, I love this. This is the tea. This is the tea that we came here for.
Yeah.
All right, Ciara, this is amazing. I'd love if you could share about when your book's coming out, where to get it, where to sign up for like the wait list, where to get your other books, where to find you, all the stuff.
Thank you. Yes. So in her circle, if Find, Build, and Keep Friendships That Matter, that's the subtitle, is launching on August 3rd, Sunday, August 3rd. When is this episode coming out?
It'll be coming out probably like the week before that.
Amazing. So that is National Friend Day, apparently. We have we have a day for everything here in the States. And so National Friend Day is Sunday, August 3rd. That is the day that in her circle, I am self-publishing through Amazon KDP again. Love it. Such an easy process. If you want to get on the wait list for that, you just go to ciararubin.com/in her circle. And you'll have all the details there. My other book, You Always Know, you can search that on Amazon, or you can find it on my website, ciararubin.com. If you want to deepen your intuition, if you want to have a little taste of some psychic development, it's there for you as well.
All right. Thank you so much. I'm so excited for this book to come out. And I'm also so excited to have you guest teach in the Pleasure Priestess, because I could keep going. I could keep asking questions. And I know that the work that you're going to do with us is going to be even more embodied and exploratory. So ladies, if you're interested in learning about that initiation, the link is in the show notes, and the link to all of Ciara's work will also be in the show notes as well. So thank you again, Ciara. And thank you to the listener for opening yourself up to this deeply vulnerable, maybe even confronting conversation, but also very fun. Like, wow, this was super, like, I feel like I'm ending brunch with Ciara, and like, it was great. So yeah, thank you so much for tuning in. Have a sacred and sexy day, and we'll catch you next time on Talk Tantra to Me. Ta-ta.
All right, babe, let's talk about your pleasure power. You know you're meant to experience more ecstasy, more ease, more turn on in your body and in life. But where is your hidden block? What's keeping you from fully owning or receiving even more pleasure in this delicious life? I've created a free Pleasure Power quiz to help you uncover your unique pleasure archetype and pinpoint exactly where your growth edge is. Also, when you take the quiz, you'll get access to a juicy Tantra ritual, also free and tailored to your unique pleasure archetype. Also, don't miss the Sexual Shadow Work Workbook, your guide to clearing shame, activating your turn on, and stepping into your most radiant and embodied self. Also free. Find them both at www.talktantratome.com/free or get the link in the show notes. Life is about to get very juicy.